Welcome to a beginner's guide to web accessibility, the next steps for European organizations. We are very excited to have you join us all here today. And for those of you who are not familiar with us, this webinar is hosted by Monsito, powered by Civic Plus. And Monsito, we're just a platform that helps you scan your website to identify different issues and errors so that you can quickly correct them. And a big part of what we do is helping to identify web accessibility errors on your website so that you can go in and proactively correct them on your website. And we'll send you a weekly report as well. So that's just a little quick about us. But before we jump into today's topic, I did just want to go through a few quick housekeeping rules with you as well. So first of all, please feel free to use the live transcription from Zoom if that is something that you would like to make use of. That has been enabled. In addition, this recording will also have closed captioning if that is something that you would like to take advantage of. And if you've ever joined a Monsito webinar before, you know that we always send the recording and the slides after the session. But with that said, please be patient with us and do give us a few days, as it does take a little bit of time for us to just get those captions refined for you. And last but not least, we encourage questions of all kinds. Please just throw them in the questions panel here in Zoom, and then we'll make sure to address them towards the end of the webinar. And of course, feel free to engage, utilize our chat function. We're very excited to see so many of you joining us here today. And a quick introduction to our speakers. So my name is Jasmine de Guzman. I am the Director of International Marketing here at Monsito, powered by Civic Plus. And I'm actually just going to be your moderator today because we've got two other stars of the show, and I'm going to hand it over to them to introduce themselves. So first of all, over to you, Graciela.
Hello, thank you, Jasmine. Hello, everybody. My name is Graciela Zhelova. I joined Monsito in the beginning of April, so I'm still very new to accessibility and I'm still learning. But I'm here to share with you all my learning so far and hopefully give you some knowledge that you have not got any still. And here next to me is Lars.
Yeah. Thank you, and thank you for inviting me in for your webinar, Jasmine and Graciela. Yeah, my name is Lars. I've been an accessibility consultant for the last 12 years now. And I really started out in accessibility because I have my background as I'm a blind person myself. And apart from that, I have a technical background in computer science. So I kind of meet all these accessibility issues more or less on a daily basis myself, and then also have some ideas about how to actually go and resolve some of these issues. So that's actually why I started in accessibility. And it's always been quite important for me to spend at least a part of my time making awareness, to make people more aware about accessibility. What are these issues? What will it mean if something is accessible or inaccessible, so we can actually enable the end users to live the most fulfilling lives, regardless if it's like a work life or social life or take part in society. All of these things runs more or less digital today. So we also see digital barriers in all of these. So that's my goal, to help to remove all these accessibility barriers.
Thank you so much for joining us, Lars.
Yeah,
it's a very much pleasure to learn directly from the source.
Yes, amazing. We're so happy to have you here with us today, Lars. And I'm just going to walk us quickly through the agenda for today. So we're going to and Lars just gave us a great little sneak preview about what is web accessibility and why it's so important. Talk about some of those common misconceptions and errors that we typically see that Lars is so admirably trying to make us all aware so that we can combat them. Then Lars is going to give us a live demonstration of a screen reader device. And then we're going to be talking about what are those next steps that your organization should be taking before we wrap it up with a Q&A. But do feel free, if you have questions along the way, do pop them in the chat or in the Q&A questions panel, just so we can make sure that we address them all. And if we don't get to all of the questions live during the session, we'll do our best to follow up with you as well afterwards. But with that, we're going to kick it off with a quick little pulse check. So I'm going to launch a poll here in a second. And what we want to know really is, are you already working with web accessibility? So I'm going to launch this, and there's 4 different answers. Yes, we've been tackling it for some time. Yes, but we could be better. We're just getting started, or this is a totally new topic for me. In which case, I give you a big clap because you're definitely coming to the right place. You're getting started. That's the first most important step. Like Lars said, being aware that it is something you need to address. And now you're joining us today to try to figure out what you need to do to tackle it. So about 68% of you have voted so far. I'm going to leave it open for another 2-3 seconds. And let's see, 77%. And all right, I'm going to share the results now as well. So here are the results. We have about 16% of you who've been tackling it for some time. 35% of you have been tackling it, but you think you could be better. It is progress over perfection, right? 38% of you are just getting started. Fantastic. And 11% of you, it's a totally new topic for you. So we hope we can enlighten you today with a little bit of new information. All right, I'm going to stop sharing the poll now, and then I'm going to hand it over to Graziella.
Okay, thank you, Jasmine. Thank you for also like opening the poll and understanding what our attendees are and where they are in their accessibility journey. What is web accessibility in the end of the day, and why you should be prioritizing it for your organization, and why you should start the new steps towards adopting it for your website and opening this journey. It's more of a journey that starts with first. As I told you, I joined Monsido 4 months ago. So for me, accessibility was just like a learning curve. I was aware that about the physical accessibilities, like building ramps and special paths on the pathway, but digital accessibility was something very new for me. Understanding that we should also digitally be opening those opening our eyes for the things that makes users digitally more aware of, makes their journey a little bit more easier to tackle their journey digitally is mainly the topic that we're gonna discover over here in this webinar. So we're gonna focus mainly on the digital accessibility, even though accessibility is both physical and digital. And what is the main impact when we talk about the impact over here with this webinar? And just because of the purpose that this webinar is focused more on the European organizations and putting the focus, and we would like to understand what is the impact that the European population with disability has digitally. What we can see, the latest statistic that we can find is 1 out of 5 European citizens are reporting some sort of disability. That means a huge amount of website visitors coming to your websites and probably having some kind of challenges accessing the information, navigating through the menu. This is like a big amount of your visitors probably bouncing and never returning to your websites, finding a different sources or different means to access information. Or what will that mean on an international scale? That's what we can see, that the World Health Organization estimates 15% of the world population reporting some kind of sort of disability. That's approximately 1 billion people who are over there, and they are also like consumers of goods, probably buying things online, accessing public informations for municipalities. All those people have to have the right to access information in the same way like all the other users have, who does not have challenges using computer or a mouse in a normal way. And this is like an example that we love to give, because what we love to say is accessibility does not benefit just people with disabilities. It affects everybody, all users, because in the end of the day, a temporary disability could have every single person in the world. In different stages of your life, you could maybe break a hand or a finger, and this will force you to find different ways of using digital spaces. And here, this example is probably something that Jasmine would like to share. She's on the picture sharing her phone screen.
Exactly. Thanks, Graziella. So yeah, this is a great example, actually. I myself had to use assistive technology earlier this year where I had an issue, an autoimmune eye issue, which left me with wearing sunglasses and incredibly sensitive to light, even while indoors. And one of the assistive technology features that I used was enlarged fonts on my phone and on my devices. So it is just to show that there is lots of different uses for assistive technology. Just because we're used to accessing the internet and technology one way doesn't mean it's the right way. There's lots of different ways. And another funny little anecdote is my grandparents who are elderly saw the enlarged font on my phone, and they asked if I could enable that on their phones too. So assistive technology is really something that benefits everyone and not just those with disabilities, which is often a misconception that a lot of people have. Back over to you, Graziella.
I think it's when we were going through the rehearsal over here on those slides, Lars have also mentioned people who are experiencing stress and like epilepsy, all those blinking, popping up features that we in marketing so much love because we think that they're so appealing. They could probably, or in most cases, are disturbing a certain part of users who are experiencing stress or anxiety or just like those moving features are disturbing their journey. Partially also like people with dyslexia. We know that people with dyslexia have a certain way of reading, so content being written in a certain level should be also like taking into consideration. And in general, accessibility benefits everyone is what we love to say, because as we mentioned, there are several examples, but it does not only affect people with disability. And when we talk about accessibility, we will also like cannot skip talking about assistive technology and trying to share here a little bit of our knowledge of what kind of assistive tech there is over there in the world, and that it is not just because you are using a laptop with a normal keyboard and a mouse does not mean that all users are using computer in the same way. There are various assistive technologies like screen readers, screen magnifier software, electronic braille displays, and SIF and PUF devices, mouse sticks, motion or eye tracking devices, head pointers, and many more. Maybe some of you have seen in movies and in videos some of those assistive tech devices. For this purpose, we have not provided pictures for those, but you can Google yourself to see how those actually looks. And then you can try to put yourself in your user journey and how they're using those devices, thinking of, okay, if I have to build my websites, servicing all those users, accessing my website through a different device or with assistive technology, how should I do that without abandoning them and thinking only for the normal user journey, that is a keyboard and a mouse. And of course, we have to put over here the big foot on the ground and say why it should web accessibility be priority for your organization. When we tend to think about the commercial side, there is like a big amount of users who are probably leaving your website, as I mentioned earlier, due to your websites being shut for them from the very start. We will see later on, Lars will provide us with some examples of how websites are from the very beginning inaccessible for users with different assistive technologies. So
should I just add a little bit for the commercial part? Because actually for me as a blind screen reader user, often when I'm shopping for something online, let's say, it's not that easy for me at Christmas time to go out and buy the Christmas gift in the physical shops. That's actually a horrible experience for me to go out in the physical world. So it's a pretty good idea for me to be in the digital shop to shop for the presents for Christmas. But here, always for me, it doesn't really come to where can I get the right price, or where can I get exactly the color that I want. It's more or less, for me, it's more or less where do I get an accessible experience? Which shop can I actually make it through the checkout flow in the shop? So yeah.
Sounds like a maze that you have to go through in order to purchase whatever. And I could only imagine all the advertising pop-ups left and right coming in, shaking with Christmas gifts. I could only imagine that, how frustrating that could be. So first point, there is like a big loss of revenue that you are actually losing by not making your website accessible. So this is first point why your website should be accessible and should be priority for your organization to become more accessible. Without doubt, it provides a better user experience. It provides a flow and flawless experience going from the navigation through the purchase cart, as Lars mentioned. And on top of it, we all know as a marketeers and web developers and webmasters, working on SEO is essentially one of the biggest challenges for every organization. It's an ongoing journey. And in fact, most of the SEO practices also apply for web accessibility. So by tackling your web accessibility HTML code, you are also tackling a major part of your SEO optimization. And one of the biggest things that we are talking about is making your organization in general more professional and more inclusive. By being accessible, it's also like a major win for your organization as a whole. And then, of course, it's a legally, some organization at the moment, public organization in the European Union are required by law to become accessible. But there is also, like, we had a webinar back in May talking about the European Accessibility Act coming into place very soon. So all of you who are actually operating in the European market, in commercial organizations and private sector businesses, you will also have to start looking into how those legislations apply for your organization and adopting slowly the web accessibility principles. And last but not least, the major thing we always like to mention is it is the right thing to do. It is not something that it's only required by law or it will give you a benefit. It is, in general, your organization will look more professionally, more inclusive, and it will give you this sense of doing the right thing. And when we talk about web accessibility, we can skip what actually up until now we see as a common misconceptions when it comes to web accessibility. And first thing, it always comes to the color contrast. I think is one of the things that we as marketeers, we tend to apply a lot when we try to combine background and a text on the front. We like to make it more shiny, more popping out, more appealing, more beautiful. But there are some rules that apply when it comes to color contrast. And those rules also apply to web accessibility. It could be sometimes difficult for visitors of your website to differentiate between the colors. We know color blindness is one of the things, but another thing is that some people have a lower vision. So for them, it gets blurry when the colors are very similar to each other. So having this high contrast and color contrast rule is a very, very essential and very easy thing to do. Maybe it could be the first thing you can start tackling. And here is like a very nice example that we provide here, because we in Monsido, we use a lot of colors and a lot of color combinations sometimes in our campaigns and in our website. So here we took some of our native colors to show you in practice could be. So on the left side, you could see this orange background and a white text, and you could see maybe the title, but reading the subtext becomes a challenge. You can see it becomes blurry, it's not that efficient. Maybe you can zoom it out, zoom it in, but think about on the first look, you get a little bit lost over there on the color contrast. On the right side, you can see the better example and actually the good practice of combining those color contrasts. And you can see that on the top, they are the approved by now, but this is also something that you have to keep update yourself, because there's a new 2.0 WCAG, a 2.2 I think is coming up. So some of those color contrast rules might change. But for now, this is like the applicable example.
And when you talk about the WCAG and this standard, is just these standards that actually says how much contrast you have to have on your website,
yeah,
to be good enough.
And here on the next example, we can see a skip to content option that you can make available for your website. This more apply mostly for users who are not using a mouse, or who are most probably using their keyboard to navigate themselves from one part of the website to another, using the skip to navigation tab button to go through the menu navigation in the different contents. This is a very common example when you construct a website that has a complicated navigation. So this is like a very essential thing to have on your website available. And of course, we come to the most important and not most important, I would say, but it's something that we always recommend to be the first thing to start tackling on your website, along with the color contrast, is the alt text. So what do we mean by alt text? It refers to all images on your website and documents and your tables and your graph and your pie charts. They should all have this alternate text description. And this is also not only helpful for people who are using screen readers, as Lars will show later on, but it also helps your SEO optimization if it's done right. And also, if the image somehow is broken or it doesn't load, it helps the visitor understand what it is over there that this image has to convey. What kind of message should that image give me? And then I think we have like a small example over here. So when we talk before, when we rehearsed this conversation here with Lars, he also mentioned that there is a big difference between the descriptive and informative images. So there's like a fine balance over here where you have to think, is this image actually describing even more the text and the content besides, or is it just like decorational image, or provides me essential information like tables and pie charts? There's essential information over there, so describing those is very essential. Also, like it presents it. Often the images are complementing the text. So after the text is read, the image also like conveys a supplemental message. So describing that with the alt text can give this fully experience to the users. And yeah, for the decorative images, like what we see right now on our slides, for example, you can see on the top line, we have yellow and blue frame. This image we call decorative image, and it does not need to have an alt text added to it, as it disturbs the journey, and it does not give any information that is essential to the users to know. It's just decoration. And then we have on the right side this little puppy example. We will be curious if you can write in the chat your example of how would you put an alt text to that image and what would you write as an alt text, just so we can see if you get the exercise, and maybe we can help you out and provide you feedback afterwards. And here is, we all work with contact forms, and we talk about what is the best practice of creating such to convert better, to convert easier, and also to have this flawless experience. So on the left side, you can see a form that is marked with colors, green and red, where red is the field where either there's a typo mistake or either is an email that is not accepted from the form usually. So here on the example on the left, a person who is colorblind won't even understand the difference between green and red, and what he will actually see is the picture on the right side with all the colors in beige, or sometimes in even, I think they even see it in gray. So making this, making the wrong field input in red does not mean that all users will have this experience. You will actually probably frustrate one part of those users who are colorblind, and they can't understand where the wrong input is actually. So this makes your form inaccessible. Maybe we can see on the next. Oh, we also have the CAPTCHA. I'm sorry, I missed the CAPTCHA. A lot of forms like HubSpot forms or Contact7 forms on or WordPress usually have this CAPTCHA as a spam, like am I a robot, verification field. Usually that is a very hard to go further step for people who are using assistive technology, and we recommend this, or the guidelines for web accessibility recommend avoiding using CAPTCHA as a spam security measure. And here is like an example of how to solve the inaccessible form, adding those symbols to the right side of your input fields, like a tick box or an X, and of course, describing them will make your form more accessible for users who are colorblind, or for users who are not able to understand where the input field gives you a wrong message back. Do you want to add something about field forms, Lars? From your experience?
Yeah, that should just be that. I mean, it's really pretty important, because it's really where you get a lot of, I mean, that's where you have the interaction with your users in most cases. I'll show you something about the naming of the input fields, but not naming conventions, but actually how do you know what actually to give us input in these fields. But I'll get back to that when I show you the screen reader demo in a little while.
All right, excited for that. And when we have left, we have this. So there is also, we love putting hyperlinks and everything as a call to action button, or as a like further conversion trick. So what is the rule when it comes to adding a hyperlink in your text? It is very important, especially in email marketing. We love those buzzwords: read more, learn more, click here. But those phrases are not giving any essential information of what am I going when I do read more? What am I doing when I'm clicking here? Like understanding, putting a context behind those is very essential when you're adding links. So a good example could be what we use is, to get started, we would love you to install the Mosquito browser web extension, and you hyperlink what exactly is going to happen when I click over here. I will install the Mosquito browser extension. No, I'm not going to click here or learn more how to do it. If you need help again, hyperlink on book a training session with us, understanding what my further journey will lead me to by clicking on this link. A bad example could be, to get started, we would love you to install the Mosquito browser extension. Click here. And by clicking here, am I installing the browser extension? Am I going to somewhere, a landing page that will offer me something else? It's like unforeseen what is going to happen with my journey after clicking on this button. And something that we have on the right side is also a picture from our website of a good practice of how are we using the Learn More button. And it's more like you can put a link text to the button that says Learn More, and you can describe even more what this Learn More will be. It will be learn more about our quality assurance model. And of course, something that you can utilize at this webinar, if you already start opening up the live captions. It's very essential when we talk about videos and webinars, virtual events, all kinds of video content to provide captioning. It's also like helpful for users who are not native English or whatever language you are doing your videos on. Me personally, I live in Denmark for the last 9 years, but I'm still using captions on all videos and movies that I'm watching on Danish, just to be able to understand even more the context by reading the text and the subtitles. And they make all difference, not only for also users with disabilities, but also for all kinds of users who are probably in the public transportation and they want to watch a video without sound and they just want to read the captions instead of listening it out loud so everybody around them can hear it. Last time we talked also about families with small kids when they're putting them down to bed. So they would like to also watch those videos, but without sound. And yeah, okay. So we have, maybe you can take it over here.
Yes, no worries. So while Lars and Graciela get the screen reader demonstration set up, I just wanted to ask all of you, have you come across any other common accessibility issues? And if so, please feel free to share it in the chat. Maybe it's something that you've experienced in your journey in making your website or making your organization accessible. I also see we've got lots of great chat going in with questions, so we'll get to those as well. But I think really fun to read everyone's alt text as well for that image that we had before. My personal one was a cute golden retriever puppy sitting and licking his nose. We had another one, a dog licking his nose, expecting a treat. We had a golden Labrador puppy licking their nose. We also had a dog sitting and licking its nose. So lots of different great examples. So really appreciate all of your engagement on that. But again, have you guys come across any other common accessibility issues while you have been trying? So I can see someone's asking here actually about what's another alternative to CAPTCHA. And I know some of those are, for example, math, simple math arithmetic is one of the examples we gave here. So we'll make sure to share these slides afterwards as well, so you can take a deeper look at them as well. But there's definitely alternatives to using CAPTCHA, because it's not always easy to say, hey, click on the boat and all of these images, right? There's other options that are more accessibility friendly. And I think I'm gonna
currently unmuted.
Hand it over to
Now, desktop 11 items selected. Safari, about healthy early, desktop 11 items.
Sounds like we're getting there slowly but surely.
Zoom.
There we go.
All right. I think it got a little messy with the screen reader sound here. I hope you can hear me and perhaps the screen reader. Can you hear me, Jasmine?
You're loud and clear coming in.
Right. And let's see what happens to the screen reader then.
Zoom.us Finder, Safari.
Yeah.
Vertical, about healthy early years, London vertical line, quick nav off. Quick nav up, heading level 1, about healthier, heading level
All right. So I'm about to show you a little bit about how does it actually work when, for example, a blind person is navigating a website. And I have my screen reader, and the screen reader is really just a piece of software which helps someone like me to understand what's on the page. And the screen reader can output it to me either as audio and a voice, as you hear it now, but it could also just be through a braille display.
Amanda DeVito to everyone.
Sorry.
Are you using JAWS or another reader?
Now we get, I think, when you're asking questions, it sounds like when you're asking questions in
the poll,
in the panel right now, then the questions get read out by my screen reader, so that may be a little bit confusing.
Alina Sevimova to everyone.
Yeah.
The biggest issue in automotive industry is convincing business people, product owners, managers to take accessibility seriously and prioritize it above new features. Any advice here? Slightly smiling face, Andrew Walmsley to everyone. I encountered motor issues in a previous job, which ended up leading to this one, actually, and one thing we learned there, which voiceover off.
All right, well, that's the joy
You are
of having
currently
a live demo of the screen reader, right? So
Yeah.
we get this.
As you just, if we can try not to post questions in the panel right now, and we can do them afterwards.
Exactly.
I think that will make it easier for us. But you all already got some kind of taste of my screen reader. If you can't hear what it's saying, there should be a caption panel, so you can also see what's output from the screen reader. But really, the first challenge for me as a blind person when I come into a website, that is really what is this about, and where should I start reading? Because for you who can see the website, you get some clues through the visual layout. You can easily spot where's the main menu, where does the content start, where's the footer of the page. So you can easily figure out basically where to start reading. And that's a bit different when I read the page with a screen reader. And I'll just start by showing how is it if I just start reading the page from the top of the screen reader. So hang on for a little while.
Vertical split tool, about health, link, skip to main content, untap.
So what I did now is I just switched off most of the screen. So now you should only be able to see what my screen reader is focusing on right now. And that mimics kind of the experience that I have as a blind person, because I can't see all the layout. So now I'll just ask the screen reader to read the page right from the top, just to show you what that's like.
Link, skip to main content, period. Visited, link, the official site of the Mayor of London and the London Assembly, search form, group. This is a dynamic search form and results will populate below the input as you type. This input is an autocomplete input, results will display as you type. Search term, search text field, search, button, list 6 items, link, what we do, link, in my area, link, get involved, link, about us, link, talk London, link, media center, period, breadcrumbs, navigation, you are here, visited, link, home.
And I think I'll just stop here.
Tile visual.
And see if we can get the image back. And what you can probably imagine, it would take way too long for me if I had to read all websites like this. So I obviously need something else. I need some kind of structure for my navigation. And what I would usually do as a very first thing when I come into a new website, that would be to look for some kind of heading structure.
Headings menu. Heading level.
That's what we have here. So I can ask my screen reader to create a list of all the HTML headings. So for those of you who are into HTML, these are the H1, H2, etc. If you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. For now, it just means that all the headings on the website, if they have been implemented correctly in an accessible way, then my screen reader can show me this list and I can use it for my navigation.
Heading level 2, Mayor launches health, heading level 2, benefits.
Let's say I want to read about the benefits.
Heading level 2, benefits.
So I can jump there.
Period. The most effective way of improving.
And start reading.
Quick nav off, quick nav on.
And I don't even have to get up that list. I could just have some other commands just to jump the headings here.
Heading level 2, Mayor launches healthier, heading level 2, why we need health, heading level 1.
So now I'm jumping there. headings backwards, and I'll go back to the benefits again.
Heading level 2. Why we need healthier. Heading level 2. Mayor launches. Heading level 2. Benefits.
And I can start reading now.
Period. The most effective way of improving health in this age group is to take a whole setting approach. In healthy early years settings and at home, list 10 items.
And what happens now is you can see we get to some kind of bullet list. And actually my screen reader recognizes that, and it tells me, hey, Lars, here you have a list, and it even tells me how many items I have in this list. And I'll just try to quickly read through it.
Bullet, eat a healthy lunch, bullet, drink, bullet, 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 sings, bullet, learn how to, bullet, learn about, bullet, live in end of list.
And it can tell me actually, so now I'm out of the list. And so that tells me that now I'm getting back into the normal content flow of the page. And this is really a fundamental thing in accessibility. And it's really regardless if we are talking websites or PDF documents or what it is, as long as we get these different elements, if we implement them in a correct way, then screen readers and other technologies, they can convey to the end user, here you have a list, here you have a heading, here you have a button or an image, but this is only possible if we get these things implemented correctly. So let me just show you another example where I don't have that much help from the headings as here.
Menu bar, file, edit, via history, bookmarks. 9, DBC, Monzi, phone books, link, phone book semantics. Jump to page, content, link, content, 2 of 3.
I will just try to do a search on this side.
Headings, links, content, windows, images, landmark, form, employ, about UCPH, employ, collaboration with search, but input felt till Sojauer search, about UCPH, find university staff name, title, find university in search tab, R-T-N,
And let's
Morton,
just
loading, showing 1 to 10 out of.
search for some Morton. And perhaps you noticed, actually my screen reader told me how many search results I have here. And that's a pretty nice feature, and actually also an accessibility requirement that these things are announced also through the screen reader and not only on the screen.
Morton, quick nav on, quick nav off, Morton, out of search, showing.
So I'll try to find the search results.
Link, page first out of 10, link, page preview, current item, link, page 2 out of.
I just go through these links.
Link, description, list 12 items. You are currently on attack, Morton Rosenmeyer.
We have some Morton here.
Title, 3 of 24, professor, function, immaterial read, for Murat, profile, link, research unit / department.
And here we can see for each of these staff members I found in my search result, there's actually a lot of detailed information. And let's say this was not the Morton I was looking for. It could be nice. Could I just jump to the next, as we saw on the other page, could I jump to the next heading, and that would be the next person.
Link, quick nav on, quick nav off, quick nav on, headings.
So now I'll just try to give the command to jump to the next heading.
Find a researcher. Did you not find the person you were looking for?
So what you see here is basically when I try to find the next heading here, I jumped past all of the search results. So I didn't really have an easy handle to get to each of these search results. So in this case, I would actually have more or less to read through all of the details of all the search results to see if I found the one I was looking for.
Menu bar, app, file, edit, view, history, bookmarks, phone, links, images from links, home vertical line, Airbus vertical, link.
And I think we should also talk a little bit about the link text, because what if I didn't find what I was looking for when I tried my headings list? Then another thing I could do would be to look for the links on the page.
Headings, links menu.
And again, my screen reader can create this nice list for me. So this is all of the links on the page. Again, rather than having to read through all of the content, you saw how long that could take me. I could typically look for the links on the page. There's a link that would take me to what I'm looking for. And of course, when we see the links like this, we want to have this good descriptive link text.
Link, Airbus 91 visited, link, image, link, who we are. Who
we are, for example. I have a pretty good idea about what would I get to if I if I happen to click on this link. But if I go a bit further down, I think we have some of these read more, click more.
Link, discover, link, read more, link, discover, link, read more, link, read more, link, read more.
So here you see these read more links, which also Graciela talked about earlier on, and it doesn't give me much context or much understanding of what would actually happen if I followed these links. Of course, I could try to follow the links and see where I end up or start reading around, but it would just take me longer time to get around in this way.
Link, read more. Menu bar, edit, view, history, bookmarks, links, images, decorative, informative, images from Brussels. Images from Brussels. Safari is not responding. How to spend 24.
So I think my screen reader is sleeping a little bit on Safari, but anyway, as it's trying to catch you up, I want to talk a little bit about the images and the text alternatives also, because you already saw how the screen reader can obviously read the text out to me. But what happens when we have some kind of graphics or images on the page? So that's when we need to consider the text alternatives. And that is really what should the screen reader do when we have some kind of image on the page.
Links, Windows, link, headings, heading level 1, heading level 1, how to spend 24 hours in Brussels, image.
And here you can see, it says something like how to spend 24 hours, blah, blah, blah. And then it says image. So again, it's telling me what kind of element is this, just as it told me about the headings and the lists and all these things. It's telling me here's an image. And also it gives me the text alternative, which is in this case is
how to spend
blah, blah, blah. Now we can think about how much value is it actually to me, this text alternative that I get right now. If we look at the heading of the page.
Main, end of, main. How to spend 24 hours in Brussels, Belgium, article. You are currently on a heading level 1. How to spend 24 hours in Brussels, image.
So actually the title or the heading of this article is exactly the same as I have as an alternative on the page. So I just get the information double here. So we should consider, does this image actually carry any important information, or perhaps it should just be hidden for me or for the screen reader. I have another example further down the page.
Advertisements. This post was written, link, our student travel Brussels is the beautiful, visited, link, Belgium. It's also a cat walking through the city, heading level 4, Brussels, TB8 street, TB8-post-separator at 2x.png image.
All right, so what happens here? Now the screen reader is reading some weird file name. And again, it's an image, but in this case, nobody told or expressed through the code of the web page, is this a decoration, a decorative image, or should it have some text alternative? But still the screen reader can see in the code there's an image, and the screen reader didn't get any instructions on what to tell me, so it really just takes the file name and passes that on to me, which in no case makes sense. It's I mean, I can still read, of course, the page content, but you can probably imagine how it adds some extra cognitive load on me, so to say, if I have to filter out some information like this all of the time when I'm just trying to read.
One last example.
Yeah, the last example. Yeah, let's see what we have.
Menu, file, edit, view, history, bookmarks, Monzi, phone book, links, image, decorative, informative image, enrollment form, informative images in relationship.
Then I think
informative images in relationship, informative images in
an informative image.
Relate TBA headings menu, link, window spots, images menu, how to image, buildings in Brussels, image, buildings in Brussels too.
That was the same
menu, edit, his bookmarks. 9, D, marriage or Monzi, phone, links, images from decorative image, informative images in relationship. Informative images in relationship. You are currently on an F. So how are we doing? Images menu, home, pie chart, Joe portal, pie chart, FY21, pie chart, full, pie chart, FY21.
So you can see this pie chart now. And this is what I would call an informative image. It actually carries some information.
Pie chart FY21 image.
And you can see it does have a text alternative. It says
Pie chart
pie chart FY21, something blah, blah, blah. But it doesn't really tell me what's the data in this image. I suppose there are some percentages showing some different things. And this is really a good case of something which should have had a better text alternative if this should have been accessible to me. Can I take 10 more seconds? Or,
Yeah.
All right. Because I had something about relationships
But let's do.
on this page.
Even as even in heading level 2. IKEA retail FY 41 euro point 39 euro 40 after 41 euro point 3 billion.
Because we have this bar chart here, and actually in this case
39 euro point 6.
My screen reader can read the numbers here, but try to notice the reading order.
39 euro point 6.
I think I'll just do it like this.
41 euro point 3 to 39 euro point 6 billion, 41 euro point 9 billion.
So get all these values, and only after I've read all the three values,
FY19, FY20, FY21.
it reads the years. So
Tile visual.
in this case, I actually have the information, but it's difficult for me to know which value should relate to which year in this case. So it would be, I would have a better relationship between this information had I had the value, the year, the next value, the next year, etc. Yeah. So time is running, but thank you for.
There's so much information.
Yeah.
I think Jasmine can take over and we can continue with the last slides. But thank you. This is
The
so
live
interesting.
transcription space with zoom.us.
We
Live
should-
transcription in live transcription. Closed captioning has.
Awesome. And while Graciela and Lars are reconnecting, we'll just quickly talk about why you should prioritize this as well. And Graciela, you just let me know when you're up and running again, and I'll kick it off. So first of all, of course, what you should do is you should audit your website and make sure that you know what legislation you need to comply with. And once you do know what legislation you need to comply with, then do an audit, find out where you're at. Are you failing? Do you need improvement, or are you already compliant? And that's something we'd love to help with you guys with in just a little bit as well. And then of course, once you've done this audit, just understanding which content you should prioritize. As you've seen, there's lots of information on websites that's inaccessible to Lars, for example. And it's really about prioritizing your most visited pages, your most downloaded documents first, because of course it's not easy to fix everything overnight. That should ultimately be your goal. But definitely start with those most downloaded pages to make sure that your content is accessible. And another great tip is to identify an accessibility champion in your organization. Make sure that they are staying up to date with the legislation, identifying when and where you need changes, and making sure that you're having trainings like this internally with your organization, making sure that you're educating yourself and making accessibility one of those key performance indicators for your organization as well. Make it one of your goals for your website for the next year. And then of course, set up a feedback loop. So just like you have a privacy policy, we encourage you to have an accessibility statement, communicate where you're at. Transparency is so important. If you are a Monsito customer already, we have a little history report that you can put up that we've seen some people do. And then make sure you have a feedback loop. Make sure that when Lars is shopping on your website for Christmas gifts, so if any of you have any suggestions for him, I'm sure he's open to it, as long as your website's accessible. But make sure you have a feedback loop so we can let you know if you find something inaccessible. Yeah, Lars might be your #1 new customer, right? And with that, we'd love to help you guys as well. So I just saw someone before asking which tools do we use to check for accessibility errors and issues. And I'm going to launch a poll now because we'd love to help you with free website accessibility scan. With that said, we always make sure to tell people that yes, we can scan your website for the errors, but you need to go in and do the work. Yes, we can tell you if there's an image on your website that doesn't have alt text or a link that doesn't have link text, but it's really important that you go in and do the work and talk to your team about what the alt text should be on the images and all of that. We also have an accessibility module. So if you're interested in seeing how that works, we'd love to give you a demo. And then, like I said, we also love to help you find out if you have any accessibility errors so that you can proactively address them and make sure Lars is your #1 Christmas customer this year for birthday gifts as well, maybe getting ready for 2023. But thank
Also,
you.
Black Friday is coming as well.
Exactly. That's a great point.
Thing to tackle and
Yeah.
make sure that your website is ready for that.
Exactly. And also just to highlight, if you do say yes to any of these, one of our team members will reach out to you and just confirm which website you'd like scanned as well. Maybe you have multiple websites and you like those scanned. So just let us know when we reach out to you. I'm going to leave the poll up. And while I do that, I'm going to let Graziella just introduce some of our accessibility resources that we have.
Yeah, so we try to be like a bit more on the topic here because Monsido, as you know, and Jasmine mentioned, we have a variety of tools, but what we're gonna focus here is the web accessibility. And we have this very handy web accessibility book that you can download from our website, or we can also share the slides after the webinar is over, maybe in a few days, give us a day or two. Then we also have the content creators checklist, the managers and designers and developers checklist. Those checklists are for you to help you out tackle those accessibility issues one by one according to what kind of role you have in the organization. Are you managing the team? Are you creating the content, or are you the designer or the developer of the website? And then Jasmine briefly mentioned the accessibility statement generator, talking about this feedback loop, and the accessibility statement generator is a free tool that Monsido offers. You also receive it with the slides. There will be a hyperlink with it, and the color contrast checker that I mentioned earlier. It's a very useful tool that you can right away start checking your color combinations. Are they having good contrast? This is also a tool that we will provide you.
Awesome. And with that, we have 2 minutes left for some questions. And I know there's been quite a few rolling in, so I'm just going to end the poll here. So I don't think we'll have time for a lot of questions, unfortunately, but we will promise to follow up with you as well. So the first question that we have here, and it is for you, Lars, and I think it's a great question because it's something we discussed last week when we were meeting about this webinar, and it is, would you consider a company logo as a decorative image that does not need alt text?
If you only have the logo on the page, sometimes you would have the company name as proper text just next to the logo. In that case, I would consider it a decorative image, but in most cases, you probably have your logo being a link at the same time. And in that case, I would definitely want to have a text alternative, which would usually just be the company name.
Good. There is another question over here. Maybe we can take one last one, Jasmine.
Yes, let's take one last one. And I have one more question, and it is, can we use the title attribute for generic hyperlinks? Quite a technical question. Lars, I'm not sure if you can answer it. Otherwise, we can follow up.
So we need to understand if we are talking about, a link would always need to have a name. And in general, the thing that would name the link is basically the text on the link. So this would only be in a case where you don't have real proper text on your link. So, for example, if it would be an image, then it would be more correct, I would say, to use the alt attributes on the link image. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, that is unfortunately all the time we have today, but for all of you, we will follow up with your other questions. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you raised your hand for follow-up, we will reach out to you. Here is also all of our information if you want to reach out. Please feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn as well. And we do just want to wish you all a wonderful day. And we want to say a big thank you, Lars, for giving us so much insight and showing us how you navigate the web with your screen reader. It was very, very helpful. And I can see we're getting a lot of messages from all of the different attendees saying thank you and that they thought it was a very informative webinar. And we also want to say thanks for being patient we know screen reader live demos are always a little bit tough, and it's the first time we're doing one on Zoom. So we appreciate everyone's patience in hearing all of the fantastic comments that have come in. And one last thing before we sign off, this has been recorded and we will share it. Please just give us 2 or 3 days to fix the captions on here. Wonderful. Thank you, everyone, and goodbye. Wishing you all a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Have a lovely day. Bye.
Bye.